Today's guest is passionate about helping others learn how to get out of their own way so they can easily hit their targets, feel joy and peace as they go. She's a sought after speaker on the topics of mindset, prosperity, universal laws, communication, and relationships, along with success. She is the best selling author of The Prosperity Approach. Her work has been featured on CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, and other hundreds of nationally syndicated television, newspaper, and magazine outlets. Her mission is to end the struggle and bring joy to the worlds of millions of men and women. Please welcome to the show, Allyson. How are you?
Oh my gosh, Jillian, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. This is like one of my favorite topics to talk about, mindset. There's so much out there and there's so much to it.
Yes.
And so I'm excited that you are here to chat with me about it because we're going to kick off with one of the quotes from your website, which I think is just like perfect because all of us, I know myself included, sometimes you're a little bit on the struggle bus, but but the quote is, the challenge is necessary on your journey to success. The struggle is not, which I think is perfect because if anybody else is on the struggle bus, this is the podcast for you. Because what would you say is the differences between a challenge and a struggle?
Challenge actually leads to progress and struggle stalls you out. So think about it. When we say challenge accepted, when somebody tells us something, we're like, ooh, challenge accepted, or like we rise to the occasion, like we really get lit up, especially as small business owners with the challenge. But struggle is filled with frustration. It's filled with irritation. We're impatient. I remember when I was 6 and I was really excited. I wanted to go out and play, but I had to get dressed. And in my haste to get dressed, I had my shirt on like inside out. I had my head stuck in the sleeve. My arm was stuck out through the neck hole. And the more I struggled, the tighter the shirt got. And I remember like just having this little voice in my mind that was like, hey, just hold still and take the shirt off. And I'm like, no, I can do this. But it got tighter and tighter. And then I started panicking because I'm like, I can't breathe and I'm never going to get this shirt off. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, stop. Just take the shirt off, turn it around, put it on your head, put your arms through the sleeves and then go. So, 12 seconds later, I was out the door and ready to go play. And that came to me as I was thinking about, like, is there any value in struggle? There is no value in struggle. Not really. There is immense value in challenge, but we've been taught and really we've been conditioned for hundreds of years that there is incredible value in the struggle. Like almost like if we didn't blood, sweat, and tears our way to success. And I mean, we've all heard the pound of flesh. We like, ew, like who wants to do that? Like we get told that if we didn't, if it wasn't super, super hard to get there, then we didn't deserve it, or we didn't earn it, or it's hollow. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all from my own experience. No, there's no value in struggle, but enormous of value in challenge.
It's interesting that you brought up like all the different things of struggle. And one thing that popped into my head was like the overwhelm too of the struggle. Yeah. It's just like all these different things. And you're so right, is if we just kind of like paused and said, wait a second, all I got to do is take this shirt off, you shake it out, and then put it on my head and move on. There's so many different things that happen for us as business owners that you're right. Like if we just kind of like shook it out, we could get through it so much faster and so much with like so much less stress.
Yes. Yes. And really, Jillian, like these days, it is it's critical that we get out of struggle, that we get out of the stress, especially because of what it does to our body. We know all of the research. We read all of that. We know it's not good for us, but we're addicted to it, right? We're addicted to the overwhelm. We're addicted to the drama. So we think it has to be any other way. And I think also there's this fear, like, but if it's filled with ease, and if I'm actually having fun as I go, as like the default, and not just every once in a while, I'm totally lit up. Will I be as phenomenally successful as a small business owner if I do it differently? Because I know this model, the model of struggle and the model of like push all the time, I know that works and people have made fortunes on that. But if I do it differently, am I still going to be successful? And my answer to that question is a resounding yes. You'll love the journey. as you go. But in order to get out of the overwhelm, in order to get out of the struggle and out of the stress, things have to change here. They have to change in your mind. It's a head game. This whole this whole thing is just a massive head game. And in fact, we were talking before we started recording, and I said, I really want to talk mindset. And you were like, I'm a systems instruction and structure girl. So I do mindset, but I don't teach it. And I'm like, and I love mindset. And when we marry systems and structures with mindset, like that is a power couple right there. So I love that we're talking about this, because you really can, and you've got to let go of the overwhelm and the struggle. And can I share like some real world tips on how to
Of
do that?
course. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So overwhelm is future tripping, right? We're in Wednesday, let's say, but we're future tripping to next Thursday when XYZ is due, when we got to make payroll, when we're, launching the product or whatever it is. And so we're trying to live in next Thursday, but we're right here in Wednesday. And so we just start thinking about all of these things that we have to do. And then we're like, I don't have any time. And oh my gosh. And then there's upset. And then there's more things, because we never, like, I guess I can't speak for you, but for me, I have like my plan for the day and it never goes according to plan. Like there's always interruptions and there's always something to put out. Right. But if you will just make yourself stay in today, like, what do I have in front of me today? And what can I do today? You'll stop getting all tangled up in the overwhelm of tomorrow, because we're not meant to live in tomorrow. We're meant to live in today. And we just like, okay, what do I have here? And what are my tools? And I'm going to use the tools that I have, and I'm going to do what I can today. And then I'm going to get more tools tomorrow. And it sounds so simple and almost simplistic, but it takes a lot of discipline to do that, especially when you're used to overwhelm and you're used to like operating in stress. But just like taking those deep breaths, staying present in the moment, focusing on one thing at a time. It's amazing how things just smooth themselves out as you go.
I think that's so powerful. And just saying, like, that thing that's in the future that you're stressing out about, it's just like, bring it back I mean, that, I don't know what, do you ever feel like there's sometimes where you're like, that is a light bulb moment for me, and I don't know why I didn't think of that before, but like for me, I was just like, holy smokes, I'm doing that right now.
Well, and we live in this world too, and the culture right now is all about hustle. It's
For
because
sure.
things are changing in the climate, like almost from minute to minute, it seems like. So we've got to be really agile on our feet as small business owners, and we got to be super flexible as well. But stress does not lend itself to flexibility, and overwhelm doesn't lend itself to flexibility at all. And so we started this business, whatever business we have, we started it because we wanted to share something with the world that we thought would help make people's lives better in whatever way. And it was something that lit us up. And I think we get into the grind and we get into like the everyday activities of it. And not every part of business owning is fun or lights us up, but then we kind of forget why we did it. So we get really, really serious and we're like, you don't understand. I'm running a business here, right? And like we lose
So busy.
yes, like we lose the playfulness of it all, and we lose our ability to bend with the wind and be able to pivot. Like, holy cow, like over the last 2 years, especially, well, and especially this year too, it's like pivot all the time. I'm just like, hey, I just got my footing. Nope, we got to pivot again. And it's like, okay, let's do this. But if I'm in overwhelm or if I'm in stress, it makes it extremely difficult to be able to pivot and to feel agile.
Oh, that's so true. What do you think are some other areas that people might recognize if they're like, okay, I'm living in there. I'm living in this section. When we're trying to grow a business, there's so many different things that are coming at us. I always say it's kind of like dodgeball. You're kind of like, which
Oh my
one's going to
gosh.
hit me today? What are
Yes.
some other areas that you like recognize when working with your clients where you're like, this is another big one for people?
That keeps them in overwhelm or
Yes.
keeps them in
Yeah.
struggle. I really think when we think that we're on the same playing field or where it's a level playing field in small businesses, whether you've been in business, like when you're barely getting started in business, or you've been in business for a very long time, we kind of feel like everybody's at the same level and we're not. And so we compare ourselves, we compare our weaknesses to somebody else's strengths as a business owner or what they're doing. And so that also puts us into overwhelm, because then we're like, well, now I got to do the latest and greatest because they did that and it worked for them. But what you don't see going on behind the scenes is they've got a whole team that's working on that, which makes it look like it's just easy and flowing. And, oh, I got this download today and now I made $1 million, like, and then you start thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I not doing that? I think that was a huge stumbling block for me when I first got started in business, because you hear from people that have been in business for a long time and they're like, oh, 3 years to 7 figures. And I was like, okay, okay, like, yes, I can do that. But I didn't have systems. I didn't have structures. I certainly did not have the skill set to be able to do that. And I hadn't had money. I hadn't dealt with money and managing money in that amount of in those, like that quantity. And so I didn't have the skills to be able to do that. And then what I didn't know was, oh, before you started your own business, you worked for this billion-dollar corporation in charge of multi-million-dollar accounts. And so you were actually used to all of that. And that's the thing that they don't share with us. And I understand why, like they want to inspire us, but I really think it does a lot of us some disservice, because we think, oh, you probably have the same skill sets that I do. You've been at it longer, so there's more finesse to what you're doing. But if you can do it, I'm sure I can do it, because everybody says that, right? And then we take off, we take on more than we can handle, and then we think, oh, I'm not cut out for this, and then we get into struggle and we get into overwhelm, and then we get into a ton of hustle, and it just sucks the joy out of it. It sucks the fun out of it so quickly, when really, like, just get in your lane and stay in your lane and work with the tools that you have and the skill sets that you have today, because you can still be really successful there, because you're going to still learn and you're going to continue to skill up, and then you're going to be able to grow and scale and build your team and all of these things. But we don't give ourselves this really beautiful timeline in order to do that.
I completely agree with that. I was just going to say, when you said that, the instantly popped into my mind was social media. Like,
Oh,
we think
oh,
of these, like, I mean, I
uh-huh.
feel like that's like a whole thing of like comparison and like not realizing there's a team of 72 people that are working on this one social media post. And here you are, maybe a solo entrepreneur. You're like, I don't get it. How could they do it? Well, it's because they have all those people working on it. Like, and you're just one person. So that comparison game, definitely don't want to go there. What are some
No.
things that people can really like there I love that tip about how you were like, we've just got to focus on today. I feel like
Mhm.
we need so much more of that, because what are some other tips where that will help us feel more peaceful as we're growing this business and kind of help us refocus on why we started our businesses, why we're here?
Well, and I think you nailed it right there, Jillian, when you said that will help us refocus on why we started our business. We lose sight of that why really quickly, because there are a lot of pieces to this whole business game. And the pieces get more complicated and involve more people as we grow. And that's how it's designed. And that is wonderful. But when we're just in oh my gosh, I just totally lost my train of thought. Hang on. Oh, when we're in that, like the grind, which I don't believe in grind at all. I don't believe there have to be seasons of grind. I also don't believe in hustle. But when we're in the throes of all of that, it's very easy to let go of why we started, because it was something we thought was fun. Like, this is in my wheelhouse. This would be really cool to learn. And so, to help get out of overwhelm, to help get out of comparison, it's continually connecting with the why and leading with the why. And also, like, being a human about it. I think the biggest traps that we fall into as business owners is like perfectionism, which, this whole comparison that we do with social media. And we also make ourselves wrong. So we make it really hard on ourselves to make mistakes. Like, we're like, I can't make a mistake. And then we get into this, I call it sudden death matches. excuse me, it's like we're in this sudden death match with our business all the time because we're like, this thing has to work. This thing has to work or everything will be destroyed because we get super melodramatic. I don't know. Maybe I can't speak for you, but I have a flair for the dramatic. So I'm like,
Me too.
I'm like, this is going to be destroyed if this doesn't all work, and then somebody hacks into your Facebook account and, steals all the money for your marketing campaign. And then you're like, oh, gee, we got a workshop coming up in 2 weeks. What are we going to do? That happened. That's what we're dealing with right now. But if I was playing sudden death, and I was playing sudden death all the time when I first got started in business, then I took myself way too seriously. I had a really hard time if I made a mistake because of what it meant about me. So like perfectionism kicked in, failure then became like this huge judgment stick against me. And I just beat myself up against the failure all the time. So as I changed my perspective and I was like, well, hang on, like if this isn't fun and if I can't be playful and be a human and allow for human error and be like, whoops, that's on me, then why am I even doing this? Because holy cow, like business is hard enough as it is without me being a head case about it. And so
Totally.
when I shifted my perspective and I made a different decision that only good can come of whatever challenges that we face in business, and we face them all the time, it's to refine us. It's to define us. It's initiation into our next level of greatness, all of these different challenges that we face, but we got to bend with them and we got to be flexible with them. And we got to be like, it's okay for me to make mistakes. I'm not in life or death with any of this. My worth is not tied up in the success of my business. And let's just see, like I would set these goals. And when I finally like got out of my own head and got out of my way, I would set these big goals. And I was like, you know what, let's just see how close we get. Let's just see. And so I would let off a ton of pressure on myself instead of like, whatever it takes, non-negotiable, do or die, like we're taught, like, I won't stop until I hit this goal. I won't sleep till I hit this goal. I don't think that's healthy. I think here's the goal. Here's the plan. We got to have that. You got to have the systems in place. You got to have the support in place. Now let's see how close we get and let's have fun with this. My gosh, like, let's just enjoy the journey as we go. And all of that happens in your head as well. It's all mindset.
I think that there's so many of us as entrepreneurs that forget that like
Uh-huh.
the reason we started this business was because we thought our thing, we could do it better than anyone else. And that's why we started this journey.
Yeah.
But it's like we got lost in definitely over the last couple years, but whatever the day-to-day stuff is, we lost that. And oh my gosh, so much good stuff that you've shared with us. And I know too that you have a podcast
I do.
where there's so much more information that you talk about on that. So let's talk about that really quick because we definitely could spend hours chatting, but I know over there's tons of episodes that people could listen to.
Yes, yes. You got almost 100 that you can choose from. So it's called the prosperity approach. And I am all about the inner game, and it's playing the inner game to win instead of playing it to not lose, because those are two different games. And if you are playing the inner game to not lose in business, you are going to have an enormous amount of struggle. You're going to have a horrible experience and you're going to get different results. But when you'll start playing the inner game to win, that's a totally different game. That's when things get really fun and really exciting and you get different results. But my big beef with like the personal development industry is they're like, here's my results, do what I do. And then we're like, well, how do you do it? And so I like real world things like, okay, here's the principle, but now translate it for me. And how does it actually apply in my life? So that's what I share. I share real world tips on every episode and results about when you think this way and when you use this tool, this is the result that you're going to have. And more important, here's the experience you're going to have along the way, because we take ourselves, like I said, way too seriously. We want to have that peace. We want to know that we're making a difference. We want to know that everything is always going to work out. And so I teach you different strategies and different techniques so that you can have peace no matter what is going on. Because here's the truth. Money doesn't bring peace, but peace brings money. So we got to figure out the peace part of it so that more money can come. And it's much more simple than you think. And I talk about that on the podcast.
Well, and I think that's something that we forget. Like,
Yeah.
I have done, gosh, this is probably nearly 150 episodes of this podcast. And it's like every entrepreneur that I talk to is like, keep it simple. And we forget
Yeah,
that. Like we
we
make
do.
these things so complicated. We add in tech on top of it. Like, I mean,
Uh-huh.
there's so much stuff and we're like, we make it so complicated that it's just
Mhm.
refreshing to be like, it's simple. Like you just have to do these couple things broken down. We don't need to complicate it. It's not that big of a deal.
It's not. It really isn't. And those like the big piece broken down into bite-sized chunks just makes it really, really simple. And I appreciate so much that you said that. And I think too, we get seduced very easy by the next fad, like the sharp and shiny. Here's the webinar that I made 6 figures. Well, they don't tell you they did 92 iterations in order to get 6 figures in that webinar. So, okay, I'm going to do this. But if you have the principles behind it, and then your area of expertise, which is let's put this system in because this system is going to take care of this, and this for you. And so we make it even more simple on us as business owners. And then we fall in love with life again. And we make a difference and we make a dollar. Like everybody wins.
I was just going to say, and that's what it's all about. I
Yes.
mean, it can all come together. We can be happy and peaceful and not stressed out messes.
Yes. And that's how it ought to be.
Yes, for sure. I mean, ultimately, that's why we chose this career path was because we wanted more time to do this thing that we loved, but we got lost in that because of
Yeah.
all this other stuff that came up. So, where can people find you on social media? Because I know you're pretty active on the interwebs. So, where can people find you?
Yes. So I've got a Facebook group called Success Without Struggle. You can find me in there. We do lives every week. We call them Wednesday Wisdom. So I get in there and share more tips for how you can be prosperous in your life, real world tips to live in prosperity. You can go visit me at my website. That's AllysonChavez.com. And my IG handle is AllysonChavez_. So, and I'm on all of them. So you can come see what I'm about and shoot me a DM. I would love to start a conversation with you, see what's going on, see if maybe we can help, all of those fun things. I would love to do that.
Well, and you've created a workshop for our listeners too. So let's talk about that
Yes.
because I think this could be huge for people if they're like, I'm a stressed out mess. I need you, Allyson.
Yes. We want to go from hot mess to hot ness. Right.
Yes,
And so
totally.
I created an online workshop. It's called Conscious Creation, the Feminine Way, but I'm very, very practical. So I talk about, and clearly this is for women, but I talk about like the difference between the feminine energies and the masculine energies and what that looks like, how that translates and shows up in your life and why it's so important, especially as an ambitious woman and an ambitious entrepreneur, why it's important to understand the differences and to lead out with your feminine. We do a session on how to economy proof your money by understanding how money actually works. We talk about up-leveling all of your relationships so that you can be boldly unapologetically you and others can be boldly unapologetically them as well, what the fierceness of the feminine looks like in goal setting and being able to achieve your goals. And so we take these esoteric principles and we make them really real for you in your life. You're going to get your very own playbook that's going to be your $1 million resource through this, because as you know, Jillian, information doesn't cause transformation. It's implementation that causes transformation. So I want you to spend a week with me online, an hour a day. You'll get access to the replays. You'll get your very own playbook so that you can get this ground in really practical ways. You're going to get your very own VIP experience with your own success expert to help you to implement, because we want to change your life. So you can go to prosperityapproach.com/workshop and get yourself registered for that. And we would love to welcome you into our tribe through there.
That's so exciting. And what I'll do is I'll put those links in the show notes. So quick and easy access for anybody looking for those. Now, before we wrap up, one question that I would love to get your advice on is what is one thing that you would tell a small business owner?
I would tell that business owner that they are enough, exactly where they are to get started. They have enough tools, they have enough skills to start, and then they will continue to skill and continue to grow. And I'd actually tell that to any business owner, regardless of where they are in their business journey. You are always enough to get to that next level, always and forever. And you'll skill up and money will show up and that help will show up as you decide that you're already enough.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. Again, I'll be sure to give all your links in our show notes so anybody looking for additional help can definitely reach out to you. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. What an honor.